If you pay attention to what some of the most popular and successful entrepreneurs in your space are doing right now, you're going to notice a pattern. They're writing books. Maybe they're writing their first book to separate themselves, or they're writing their next book to continue to be seen as the top thought leader in their specific space. It's not because, oh my gosh, I automatically have all this extra time. That's not the case. People are busier than they've ever been before, but it's because they understand something about where the market is heading. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Is I want to share with you why so many smart entrepreneurs are prioritizing their book now, what's caused this, and how this is going to help you over the next year to 36 months and beyond. And why if you don't do this, you're going to miss out on the golden age of writing human generated books. So let's talk about what's changed, what's been going on over the last 12 to 24 months. Well, as you can probably imagine, AI is one of the driving forces behind this. And here's what we're noticing. More AI books are coming out ever than before, and they stink. All right? They absolutely stink. More and more people are using AI. And because of that, what's happening is that creating content ideas, even creating content for advanced AI users is becoming a lower barrier. So now differentiation isn't just by the volume of content, although that's still something that you can do more of, right? But what's happening more than all of this is that AI has created in the entrepreneurial community, it's created kind of this barrier. And what you're seeing is more people shift lower ticket, higher volume, or shifting higher ticket. And what's happening is those 2K, those 3K, those 5K offers are not being sold as much. I was at a mastermind and I was talking about people, and people that were in the 2 to 5, 2 to 7K range were having the hardest times growing. But people that were in the 20K range, the 10K, the 20K range, or people who were doing more of like a recurring revenue model with coaching attached to it, those were the people that were growing faster. And because of all this is why people are prioritizing and should be prioritizing your books if you want to scale. And I'll dig in one step further here. Because of this gap that's starting to spread because of AI in the workplace, what's happening is that there is so much more noise, right? There's more information, there's more content, there's more ease to put together various different things. And so you have to find a way to differentiate yourself in a credible, time-tested way. Anybody can whip up now anything very, very quickly with AI, but it's not that easy to create a book that shows your perspective and your expertise in a way that relates to your ideal reader. It also, when you write a book, gives you great AI searchability, which is something that can increase visibility and opportunity. So now what's happening is we're seeing people are paying more of a premium to make sure that they're getting the real authority on that particular thing. And that's what we're going to see more and more of. That's what I'm predicting. That's what a lot of my colleagues are predicting, is that as more and more people start to use AI, you start to use AI search, you're going to get a bunch of different recommendations. And the way you're going to separate yourself is you have to be seen differently. You have to be more of an authority. And so the time-tested way of being an authority, it's in the word, is becoming an author. And so when you do this and you decide that writing a book makes sense to grow your business, what happens is that you stop being just seen as a business owner and you start being seen as a thought leader. And that shift is enough for people to get behind you as the leader. They get behind you and your perspective. They get behind you and your frameworks and methodology, and they get behind you as someone that they can relate to. The book is the vehicle to shifting their thought. Let me take you back a little while ago. Several years ago, 5 years, 10 years ago, Gary Vee, the social media Gary Vee, okay? He was like, build a personal brand, build a personal brand, build a personal brand. And so people started to build a personal brand. And the people that did that were able to differentiate themselves and become seen in a different way. Now, having a book is just the next layer to credible visibility, to credible personal branding. Because if you've taken the time to create a good book, you are going to have the advantage over other people, okay? The next thing that's really powerful here and why people are really prioritizing this is to expand their potential marketplace. So when you have a book, and this is something that I've seen time and time and time again, is if you are trying to change industries, if you're trying to elevate yourself to a new industry, if you're trying to niche down, writing a book is one of the best and fastest ways to do this without having to spend tons and tons of time breaking through the barriers, breaking through the noise. Let me give you an example of this. We had someone, they worked in corporate America for years, worked their way up to VPs at Fortune 500 companies. Absolutely spectacular at what they did. But then they didn't want to work at that company anymore and they wanted to do their own thing. So what they did was, instead of just saying, I'm going to be a consultant, they wrote a book on their specific skill set, used that book to get them consulting clients and speaking clients. And that's how they were able to transfer their knowledge faster, because they wrote a book. And this is happening time and time and time again. I'll give myself as an example. When I knew I wanted to do more public speaking, I wrote a very specific book based on my number one talk, and that got me invited to China, and that got me invited to more and more talks. So you can do this if you want to expand your market. This is the credibility tool that travels. It goes with people. You can gift it. You can get people anywhere in the world. You can get them to your book. And it's an easy, low risk investment for people to learn about you. And if they like it, amazing. They're going to want to take the next step. But the coolest thing about a book is it just gives you an automatic way to get in front of new people who have never heard of you before. And the only thing you have to do is just make sure that the book is done right. So as we look ahead here, I want you to now start to say, okay, well, what does this actually do for me? Well, when it comes to books, it actually can evolve your business model. So many people who write books, what it does is, once they have this book out, now they're able to charge more for doing the same thing. So this is very common in two places: speakers, consultants, and agencies. Three places. Speakers, once they write a book, they're immediately going to increase the amount of revenue they can make. In one way is going to be their speaker fees. You're going to charge more because you have a book. The other way is now you have a secondary product that you can sell in addition to your speaker fee, which can increase your average speaker fee total. This is really valuable if you're doing a lot of gigs. For example, if you're doing 25 speeches already a year, and each one of those speeches can buy 50 books, that's an extra $25,000. Here's how I get there. 50 books, $20 per book is $1,000. 25 speeches, that's an extra $25,000. All you did was you just added a book to that. Now imagine it's 100 books. Imagine that you're doing 50 talks a year. This math can get up there very, very quickly. It also can help you increase your current offers. So some of our coaches and consultants who we work with, they write their book and then immediately they just raise their monthly retainer, or they raise their pricing because now they're an author. So we had one author raise their pricing from $4,000 a month to $7,500 a month. Nothing changed other than the fact that they wrote a book. And so they were able to make a lot more. We had another client. Just because they wrote a book, they started charging more, and they added $57,000 of recurring income over the next 6 months. So this is what happens when you actually write a book. Now, we're not writing a bullshit book that's filled with AI. We're writing a good, high quality book that takes your perspective, your unique perspective on an existing topic, and it combines your expertise with your experience to create something that the reader can relate to. Okay? So the question now becomes, all right, we've seen how it can move the needle in the business. We've seen why we need to do this, but now we got to talk about the timeline. Because we're in a beautiful window where everyone's trying to go the AI route, but people want connection more than ever. Everybody's trying to leverage AI so that they can do the less work. But by doing that, people who are actually putting in real effort are getting rewarded over and over and over again. So you have now an opportunity to start building the author positioning. It's not just personal brand anymore. It's author brand. Okay. It's building that persona. And so what we've seen is that if you're ready to take yourself to the next level, you write a book on that particular topic, and then you're able to get more credibility and make more money in that space. But here's where it gets fun. If you look at a lot of people over the last few decades, okay, let's go backwards to go forwards, people who have written books with a very unique perspective have been able to become and claim categories. Right? Atomic Habits is James Clear. He's kind of owned the habit space, even though there's been other really great books. Start with Why. Simon Sinek is associated with the why person. Okay, and you could look at a lot of these various different people have done things related to this. And so what you need to do is, if you want to be seen as someone who owns a category based on your perspective, you want to come out with a book that has your perspective on an existing topic. Most of what you're going to write about, most of what you're selling, there are books that exist. But the reason that books continue to go crazy and new people come onto the scene is not because they're saying something so revolutionary new. It's often because they're saying something in a way that now resonates based on their perspective. Let me give you an example of this. Health books, fitness books, finance books. These books have been around and there's so many of them, but yet every single year, someone comes out with a new perspective on this book and it garners major attention. Let's break it down one step further here. You have The Psychology of Money. That's a fantastic book. I loved reading that book. Okay? A lot of what he says is not crazy new, but the perspective of how he shares the book is, in my opinion, what made it so successful. There are a lot of other finance books, but he then became an authority on psychology. When you think of money and psychology, think of Morgan. All right. So these are some of the things that I want to share in this because I'm so passionate about it. And I've seen that every time somebody wants to double down on something because it's what everyone thinks is the right thing to do, it's not always the only thing that you can do. And so the question ultimately is, how do you decide what best way to spend your time? And what you have to get to this understanding is that if we look at the scope, AI's here, everyone's trying to get in on AI, everyone's trying to get the shortcut, everyone's trying to leverage AI. And there are some people who are phenomenal with AI. But for the majority of people, most people are still dabbling. Most people are trying to use it to cut basic things out of their life, their tasks, or they're trying to use it to create a shortcut for them to spend less time working. This is the window of opportunity where human-generated books with unique perspectives are going to absolutely dominate. And that's why so many smart entrepreneurs are doing this, because not only is it going to separate their branding, but it's also going to allow them to separate their pricing, which positions them in the upper echelon. So now they'll have visibility and the pricing to back how good they really are, which gives them the space to grow and scale to the next level. So I know I got really focused on this, but I think there's a big opportunity for people. And I think if you don't have a book, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to establish your brand at the next level in the time of AI, along with being able to position yourself as an authority, as more and more people are starting to go higher ticket where they can trust and guarantee themselves that they can get a better result, or they're going lower ticket where they're removing the risk and trying to test somebody out that way. So that's why I believe a lot of entrepreneurs, if you're not writing a book, you're missing out. And eventually it's not going to be nice to have a book. It's going to be need to have a book just to get in the game. And so if you want to get in the game yourself and you want to write a book that will actually add revenue to your business, then go to bigideatobestseller.com/call. You can book a free demo to talk with me and my team. And we'll actually show you how do you actually add revenue to your business because of a book, and how do you do it in a way that doesn't stop you from running the business or stop you from spending time with your family. All right. And then the other thing is if you want to kind of learn the process of how to write a book, I wrote a book on how to write a book, and it's called Big Idea 2 Bestseller. And you can go to bigideatobestseller.com/free-book. Grab a free copy of the book. We'll ship it anywhere in the world. And you can see exactly what our process is to helping people write, publish, and launch nonfiction books. So I hope that you start to see things a little bit differently. I hope that you take action on this. And I wish you the best as you level up your authority, you write your book, and you absolutely crush it in the next stage of your journey.